Was it running?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Ready when you are.
This is like the, you know, like, this is what psychosis looks like.
My name is Cornel Diosi. I am a PGY2 resident here at the University of Incarnate-Word, Feik School of Pharmacy.
My name is JC, and I'm a PGY1 at UIW Feik School of Pharmacy Pharmacotherapy program.
Hi, I'm Marcus Riddy. I'm a PGY1 at UIW at the Feik School of Pharmacy Pharmacotherapy program.
My name is Sarah Brianne Edwards, and I am a PGY2 resident at the UIW Feik School of Pharmacy Pharmacotherapy program. So one of the great things about a residency program is it has a really robust teaching program. For instance, we have 12 sessions in which we learn about how to write learning objectives, exam questions, how to receive student evaluations and feedback, and we are required to teach a 3-hour didactic lecture during our PGY2 year. For instance, in the past we've had residents go over thyroid disease, C. diff, dyslipidemia, stable ischemic heart disease, and so these are core classes that are required by pharmacy students, and it's really great for us residents to get experience in that regard.
I think one of the things that makes our program most unique is being able to go to multiple practice sites throughout the city of San Antonio. So for instance, I've rotated at University Health, I've rotated at the VA, 2 clinics, and it will be a 3rd upcoming later on this year, and as well some of the University Health outpatient clinics too. This gives us a great and unique perspective over different areas of practice, different hospital populations, and different preceptors as well. And as well different EMRs, which I think is very helpful, being able to be versed in multiple EMRs, so going out, having the experience, being able to jump back and forth.
So it is a 2-year program, which is really nice because we don't have to reapply for a PGY2. And what's great about that is also if you're unsure what you want to do or what specialty you want to go into, you have some more time to figure it out yourself. For the 2nd year, there are a lot of electives to choose from, so you can tailor your rotation to fit what you want to get out. And with the 2-year program, you also have your longitudinal research, so it can be more in-depth because you have 2 years to go into your research.
So I think this residency program has really helped improve all areas of personal development. I feel like I'm more confident speaking with teams, being able to answer questions from the preceptor, speaking ability as well. We've given numerous presentations, speaking up in front of a group, you know, chiming in and saying, hey, I don't know if I agree with that, or how about we do this? It's definitely very nerve-wracking in the beginning. Teaching my 3-hour lecture has definitely helped break down some of the jitters prior to presentations. That was a class of about 85 or so P3s. And then as well, just knowledge. I feel like I learned so much every single day, and being able to practice that and let it all sink in really has improved my knowledge base hugely.
For me, I would say the first rotation that I had in the CCU really built up a lot of knowledge that I'd had, but progressively as I've noticed going through the different rotations, I've gained a lot of confidence in just what I know and how I'm able to speak to different providers and definitely make better recommendations for each rotation.
So this residency has really built on my foundation of knowledge that I acquired through pharmacy school. I feel like every rotation I've been through, I've just expanded the knowledge that I already have to that which I can apply to my patients, to the interdisciplinary healthcare team, and to my own knowledge of disease states. I've also learned how to expand my knowledge independently. So for instance, I am really keen on collecting journal articles, go into various databases to find answers to the questions I need, and even finding little blog sites that have updates on clinical knowledge so I can keep up to date. I'm also really proud that I have increased in my confidence throughout my residency program. At the beginning I was a little bit mousy, very intimidated by working in a healthcare team, but as I've gone along I have learned how to have a voice on the team, how to bring up recommendations without having to wait for a pause between the conversation. And even in some of the rotations that I've had great experiences in, I've had the healthcare team reach out to me prior for my recommendations and my guidance. My favorite favorite part about this program that doesn't have to do with the residency are my co-residents. I really love hanging out with them. We have a popping group chat all the time. In this program, I have a co-resident beside me, and then I have 2 little co-residents under me. And so just being able to interact with them, to cheer them up when they need, or vice versa, or just hanging out, that's really fulfilling.
I think my favorite non-resident thing, probably having my co-residents alongside me. It's really great. If I was alone, it'd be a very lonely time and very difficult. It's been great being able to get to know new people, new personalities, spending time with everybody.
It's really nice having, as a PGY1, PGY2s ahead of me to ask for tips or any recommendations on anything, anywhere from clinical information to time management, or even things like where to eat in San Antonio or where to go, all of that. So it's really nice having co-residents around.
My favorite non-rotation part of the program is definitely having multiple co-residents. It makes it a lot more fun and definitely easier to navigate. Having 2 PGY2s that were in my position just a year ago, and you can always go and ask for their advice or kind of see a layout of what your year will look like.
I see myself hopefully in an internal medicine, in an ideal world, a cardio position, but we'll see. I'm open to any opportunity, but just trying to stay relatively local to San Antonio.
Post-residency, I've decided that I want to pursue a career in ambulatory care. I feel like my personality and my clinical skills make me a perfect candidate for somebody who can teach patients how to take accountability of their own health care. I've noticed that a lot of the experience I've had with patients have been really positive, and in fact, I'm able to provide this atmosphere where not only do they gain an interest in their disease states and taking care of them, but they also find an interest in what I have to say beyond what they need to know. And so that's why I want to be that cheerleader for patients in the future.
So as a PGY1, I'm not really too sure yet where I see myself. I've only completed 3 rotations so far and am on my 4th rotation. So I came into this program thinking between ambulatory care and internal medicine, and I'm hoping this residency program will help me decide on what I will do in the future.
So right now I'm not really sure what I want to do. I really like inpatient stuff. I really like cardiology. I enjoy HIV. I did have a little taste of ambulatory care, which actually I thought was surprisingly really cool. And so right now it's a pretty open book. I'm probably leaning more towards inpatient, but having just a whole other year of electives to do and really fine tune it, I'm excited to do.
So in terms of feedback, we receive both written and verbal feedback. Every quarter of the year, we have a large evaluation in which we speak with a panel of our residency advisory committee and go over just general expectations about where we are in our research projects, which rotations we've completed, if there are any other items on our to-do list for residency in general that we need to complete. We also have monthly evaluations with our preceptors after every rotation, as well as any kind of feedback Fridays or midpoint evaluations as dictated by the preceptor. I've had experiences where if I need feedback a little bit earlier than that, I can absolutely reach out to them. For instance, I was on an internal medicine rotation where I was feeling a little bit intimidated my first week, and so on that Wednesday I asked my preceptor if we could just sidebar a little bit and figure out ways to help me kind of ease my nerves, and that was very beneficial.
So feedback can be honestly as often as possible. I know I had a couple of moments whenever I was on the CCU where I did a couple of midweek feedbacks, so Wednesdays, and as well as like a feedback Friday too, which was really helpful. I just noticed a few rocky points and wanted to talk about it, see what I could do better, and that was very, very helpful because in the last few weeks of the rotation it was only weekly feedback. But for the most part it's generally a weekly feedback with feedback at the end of the rotation. But as Sarah said, we can do request feedback essentially in the middle. If things feel like things are kind of not going so great, or if there's things that we just want we've maybe changed some methods and we want some feedback on it, then we can most definitely request it halfway through the rotation. Preceptors are very receptive, and I think that I've never been on a shortage. I've never been curious of like, ooh, how am I doing? And even if I am, I just reach out to the preceptor and they've been very forthcoming.
somebody who is both a visual learner and also a kinesthetic learner, meaning that I have to be moving around in order to feel engaged and absorb the information. So in terms of visual learning, a lot of my preceptors have provided a myriad of resources for me to delve into, to keep up to date on clinical knowledge and even newer information that I'm unaware of. As for that kinesthetic aspect, I've had preceptors who have been more than flexible in allowing me to briefly shadow them and see how they perform, but then more quickly diving in and independently working on my own thereafter. And so if I'm kind of in that realm where I don't have my preceptor directly looking at me, but I'm still required to perform tasks of a pharmacist, that helps me grow a whole lot more. And I would say that this program really helps to achieve that.
I'm definitely somebody who kind of needs a lot of organization to learn, and so like on my current rotation, actually every rotation I've been on, we've had almost weekly topic discussions where I can go and create a handout, and I really learn a lot from handouts, but also just like experience within like the rotation site. So whether that's learning on a team, learning what you do from patient to patient, learning how one therapy can have different outcomes in two different patients, even though it's the same therapy. So a lot of like hands-on learning and a lot of like visual learning, which I enjoy.
So I've really enjoyed my infectious disease consults rotation. In this rotation, I was expected to review patients with really complex infectious conditions. I was able to work on a patient who had an intra-abdominal infection with a super resistant microbe that we had to really figure out what kind of last-line antibiotic to use. In another instance, I was actually, I participated in creating a Bactrim desensitization protocol for a patient who needed to receive Bactrim and had no other alternative for their osteomyelitis. And then lastly, I did get to work with a unique patient in which they had a methicillin-susceptible Staphylococcus aureus bacteremia, but they could not tolerate cefazolin. They developed acute interstitial nephritis with oxacillin, and so they had an AKI where they couldn't use vancomycin, and they also had a lung abscess, so they couldn't use daptomycin. And so we ended up having to use linezolid on an MSSA bacteremia patient, which was really unique.
So I can think of two rotations that I've really enjoyed so far. That would be my cardiology rotation and then also my HIV rotation. Both of them are very different. Cardiology was inpatient, while the HIV clinic was more of an ambulatory care.
I would say that the number one area for success in this program are our preceptors. They are more than invested in making sure that we succeed in our personal and professional goals. They help to create those goals at the beginning of the rotations. They offer research opportunities. They identify your strengths and weaknesses and help you to strengthen those strengths and then work on those weaknesses you have. And they give excellent feedback as dictated by how frequent they do it. I would also say that this residency program sets me up for success because of all the well-rounded projects I'm expected to do. So I have my research project that is expanded out into 2 years versus 1 year. I also have various controversies in clinical therapeutics to do research on, additional continuing education opportunities to deliver to pharmacists or pharmacy students, as well as that teaching certificate.
So I'm on my home-based primary care rotation, and what that rotation entails is that it's mostly independent work, and we work up patients on a quarterly basis, and so there will be patients assigned to me throughout the week that I'll work up, and then go over the patient workup with my preceptor. And then on Tuesdays, we have IDT, or interdisciplinary team meetings, where we discuss everything about the patient with the providers, the social workers, the nurses. They'll all be there to talk comprehensively about the patient. And throughout the week, we'll go on home visits whenever there's some available, and that's whenever we can check even firsthand their adherence and how they're taking their medications in their home.
So a typical day for me looks like, so I'm on ambulatory care rotation right now. So I get to clinic about 8 o'clock in the morning or so. I'll log into the computer, take a look, see if patients are there. If not, just do any last minute checks, run any last minute test claims for patients' insurance, and then we'll start seeing patients. So our patients are very unique as they're referred to us by their primary care physicians, so these are generally the patients with difficult medication adherence, polypharmacy, uncontrolled hypertension or diabetes, so it makes things very, very interesting. A lot of the time the health literacy is pretty low, so we'll spend anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes all the way up to 4 hours. And in the afternoon will generally consist of writing notes, doing education with the medical residents or interns or medical students, answering whatever questions they have, as well as picking up any curbside consults. So sometimes the physicians will pop their heads in, ask us some questions, or ask if we can see a patient momentarily, maybe for like an insulin counseling or they're a new injectable they're starting. The afternoon and evening consist of working up patients for the next day.
So right now, I'm currently on my research rotation, so it's not as traditional as a more structured clinical rotation. And so at the beginning of the month, I sit down with my preceptor to go over global goals for the month. So getting data crunching completed, working on my manuscript, and then other aside projects such as preparing for interviews for pharmacy careers. Working on a systematic review with another research group that I'm in. And so from there, we break down week by week what kind of soft goals I have to complete, and then it's up to me on a day-to-day basis to accomplish those goals little by little.
So right now I'm on a family medicine or internal medicine rotation, and my day is kind of early. I get up pretty early and I get to the hospital by like 5:30 in the morning. You don't have to get there that early, but I am a morning person, so I just enjoy it. You really just need to give yourself enough time to work up your patients, and then I pre-round with my preceptor probably around 7:45, 8 o'clock, and then rounds with the team starts at 9. So rounds can vary anywhere from like an hour, 2 hours, just depending on the patient load, depending on how critically ill your patients are. And then after that, we'll meet up and do topic discussions, or you have project time to work on like your research or your clinical controversies or just anything else that you have going on.
I don't think I can really pinpoint which rotation I've learned the most on, just because I think every rotation is so different. So for instance, the current rotation I'm on right now, I feel like I've learned a ton about patient interactions, incredibly accurate medication reconciliations, especially with patients with low health literacy or just the ones that respond to every question with, I do what it says on the bottle when they're actually taking it half the time in reality. And then moving all the way from a CCU rotation, so learning how to manage advanced heart failure, how to diurese a patient who's 40 liters overloaded, and then changing over to something like internal medicine where I'm learning about managing patients with cirrhosis, optimizing their guideline-directed medical therapy, and even seeing a touch of oncology and things like that. So honestly, all the rotations vary a lot in what you are looking for and kind of what you learn. So all of them, I would say.
I would say my internal medicine rotation, my second year of this residency program, was where I learned the most. In this internal medicine rotation, I was actually on an oncology team. So not only did I have to understand general internal medicine disease states, but then I had to add on hematologic and oncologic conditions on top of that. And so beyond expanding my knowledge on these various disease states, I was also able to really learn how to think on my feet and gather that information in order to help treat patients with these adjunct conditions.
I learned a lot on my cardiology rotation just in terms of knowledge base, looking at the patients and applying like therapies to specific patients such as like heart failure, but then also at the FACS clinic or the HIV clinic, really learning to speak with patients about a very difficult subject matter, or maybe it was a patient that was just recently discharged from the hospital and they had like cryptococcal meningitis or something very like severe. Those two rotations really stood out to me. I learned a lot from my preceptors, but also like the providers on the teams, and I also learned a lot from the patients in just like how they're dealing with many diseases they had or dealing with a recent discharge, but then also being able to see the patients like prevail in this disease state and like come back stronger than ever. So those are the two rotations that I learned most from and that I've enjoyed.